Into round one here, playing against the Mardu Horde, no less. But I'm the Mardu Horde. I'm confused. I guess I'm the Warrior Horde. And no, we gotta keep. We got stuff to do. We lost a die roll, so I'm gonna be on the draw. Once we draw one of our 3 red sources, this hand goes off. What? My opponent's playing last. Well, that's just dandy for me. That's great. 2 into 3 into 3 into red? No. That would be too much to ask, wouldn't it? I don't know how much my opponent really loves Mardu Horde, but I kind of hoping there's a comment in the side off to the, over here, off screen, where my opponent just goes, "I'm so jealous of your clan." So at this point, ooh, that's a fantastic draw. I'm really just looking to draw a mountain. I'll get in there. Trigger some raid action. My opponent doesn't know I'm not doing that, but there you go. Yeah, easy block, of course. So I'm assuming my opponent choosing to play last is also rocking some sort of 5-color abomination, which I'm jealous of. Hopefully not for me, but hopefully for my opponent. My opponent has that foil villainous wealth. But right now it's just a flat up teamer deck, which is interesting. Flat up? I do mean straight up. I don't know what flat up means either, guys, so don't ask. If this is something scary, I guess we could suspension field it. Like if it's a Savage Knuckle played. Oh gosh, I'm so suspension fielding it, and my opponent's so sad. Thank goodness I have one of the few answers in my hand that gets this guy out. Because we got a suspension field and then attack in for 2. Oh gosh, my life is good. So I just basically drew all the nut stuff I could possibly draw. Oh, it's toughness 3 or less, 3 or greater. Excel Tarkir toughness 3 or greater. Good. Whew. I read that wrong for a second. I almost cast it. You and you. Get in there. So, my deck is performing exceptionally well. This is an above average performance, though. And the fact that my opponent has a Savage Knuckle Blade, which is pretty much more powerful than anything my deck does, really scares me. I'm not complaining. I'm more just pointing out that I'm aware that right now my deck's doing things better than it normally should. So I don't want to be super confident. Well, I guess I'm overly confident at the moment in that I do anticipate winning this particular game. Having all the mana, 2 Point Back Brigades, and a Trumpet Blast. It's pretty insane. Alright, so we'll play the Swamp. And we're basically looking to attacking with both, and we can flip up our Morph while my opponent cannot. So that gives us that edge, which is why it's so great to play first, especially this kind of deck. The opponent goes for a trade, I'm obviously flipping. Question is, do I just flip anyway? What am I spending my 5 mana on? I could pay 3. I mean, yeah, let's just go ahead and flip anyway. Just while my opponent's tapped out, you know. I mean, mostly tapped out. Can't do anything. I know we're only doing 2 no matter what, but I'd rather do that while my opponent doesn't have much going on. Alright. Now my opponent's at the 5 mana sweet spot. Oh, okay. Wouldn't mind my 6th land there either, to just hard cast the Brigade, start getting some of my morphs out, but let's see. Is there anything? I can only cast 1 spell no matter what. If I attack with everything, let's just say this morph eats my Chief of the Scale because it's, you know, a 5/5 trampler. This guy gets blocked, and then I just do 9 damage with that 8. That doesn't really put me in a spot where I want to be. I think I'm just going to hard cast the Sage Eye Harrier. Just to keep developing the board, because we are going to be in a really good position to just flood the board with stuff. And having a flyer is also really nice. Alright. Then I'll just pass the turn. I'm not going to attack into 5 open mana and a morph. See if my opponent wants to spend the mana to flip it. Ooh! A mythic. Gosh, my opponent's got some power in this deck. What does this guy do again? I played with it back in the early form. I haven't seen it in a long time. So I know that it's a 5/5, and then when it dies, put a bunch of green snake tokens on the battlefield. Alright. Well, we can chump it for a while, but if my opponent attacks in, I think I just take it, and we just have a really nice crackback. Okay, so I think the only thing I'm worried about is if my opponent does fatty after fatty. It's not great that my opponent's able to just keep playing a bunch of blockers. Ooh, take up arms. I think we're just going to go wide here until I can get a win in. Nice thing is now this morph cannot be unblocked. But if I attack in, Hydra just takes out the chief. And gets a... It only takes, let's just say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 down to 5. Yeah, I think it's just better to... I think we'll play take up arms here. Opponent likes the blocker, as my opponent should. I think take up arms and a Tremor Blast could get us the win here. My opponent has a bunch of cards in hand, so there's probably another blocker. So if 1, 2, 3, 4 guys are blocked, 3, 4, 5 get through. That's 15 damage. Does not actually win the game, but put my opponent down to 2. It's pretty interesting. Oh. Ooh, okay. There you go. Disdainful stroke, taking out my take-up arms. Alright, well played, opponent. And man, still stuck on that 5th land. Not that it's like, again, the end of the world. I can cast things, but man, 6 would just be helping me go off a little bit more. I think we just get the flyer down now. And I should be attacking with Sage Eye Harrier. I don't know why I didn't. I've been missing some points of damage, side note. So we'll do that. Could be right to try to go wide right now, but I think having some guaranteed in-the-air action is better. I also don't mind just flipping this guy in a turn, showing the War Behemoth versus like the Ponyback Brigade. Though if I draw the 6th land, I'll probably just show the Ponyback Brigade, flip this, attack in the air, play the Ponyback Brigade at 6 mana. If these morphs aren't super scary morphs, then I'm in good shape. But if my opponent, if I can't get through in the very near future, then my opponent having bigger dudes than me is, I'm not going to be able to go the wide Trumpet Blast route. Soul Type, ooh, and life gain. Yeah, I need to set up a lethal, and that's it, attack. Because as soon as any of these guys start going down, I'm in some trouble. So far, my opponent's been hesitant to attack. All right, let's do some math. Can I afford to take this 5 right now? All I would do is throw a goblin in front of it, but do I need the goblins on the crackback to get anywhere? This is going to be flying, so my opponent's going to have 4, 5, 6, 7 damage through, no matter what, in the air, it looks like, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Put my opponent down to 9. And that means 1, 2, 3, only 1 goblin gets through, putting my opponent to 6. It's not really where I want to be. But I still think since I'm just trying to go wide, I go ahead and take 5. I'm going to gain 2 life here soon. And I have time to develop my board out in a turn or two. Not majorly, but I got a little bit of time. So really it was just love a land, to reveal the Ponyback Brigade, play it, and then I'll be set up for a win then. And that's going to be exactly what happens right now. So here, really just trying to set up a win. We'll attack in the air. We'll play the next Ponyback Brigade, and then on our next turn, this Trumpet Blast should get us where we need to go. Man, the suspension field was clutch, and making sure we had that mountain early on was pretty insane. If I didn't have that suspension field, I'm pretty sure, yeah, hands down dead. My opponent has not made any mention to my Mardu Horde, which kind of makes me sad. Gains a life. If that is the 1 life my opponent needs to win, I'd be really sad. I don't think that's the case. I think we're pretty solid here. Again, we still have 7 in the air, down to 7. With a whole bunch of attackers here. So we'll attack with everything. We're not on the dead on the crackback. If my opponent attacks with everything, it's pretty much the same as if I attacked with everything, because I can just put the chumps in, save some life, and these are not blockers anymore. But something like a Pine Walker could be a little scary. Being able to get some big beats in and untap and block. Another blocker, I'll have to double check the math, I think is still okay. 7 in the air, down to 7. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blockers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blockers, and then 9 more damage gets through. So yes, we are going to combat, and we are attacking with all creatures. And that should get us there. For 2 mana, there's nothing I can think of that blows us out. Mind you, a removal spell does put my opponent down to just 1. But I don't think I'm going to be down the crackback with a War Behemoth to be able to chump with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, plus anything that gets flipped in one way should be just fine. So if there is like a Force Away or something to get rid of one of the tokens, so my opponent, because remember my opponent's taking 9 damage from the tokens, plus these, and I assume everything else is being blocked. Sure, my board state's going to be pretty wiped, but my opponent can't crack back and win, and then my flyers should be able to finish off the job. I think that's the case. Is there a life gain instant? That's my biggest worry, actually, this Sultai Flare. Like, actually, it could be bad if my opponent has a Force Away and then does the Sultai Flare block, and then the Trumpet Blast kills the Sultai Flare, that would not be good. But I guess things would die, so, I mean, I'm not going to be in... I wouldn't be in a bad shape, let's put it that way. That seems to not be the case, so yay. All right. The blast. I think that's it. Could be wrong. What else you got? Maybe rares? Am I missing any rares? Spell Snatcher? Don't have enough mana to flip. I think we're okay. Opponent flips over a Monastery Flock. That's fine. And another Monastery Flock. That is also very fine. So that's it, right? Am I missing something? Yes, that is it. Alright, let's sideboard. Good to know that those morphs were not as powerful as some of the other spells my opponent had. Active Treason I'm eyeing here. Again, it's the red splash I'm a little worried. The Rite of Serpent helps deal, I guess, a little bit with some of the bombs we saw. I don't know. The snakes go really well against what I'm doing, but at the same time, not the end of the world. I'm seeing snakes from the Hydra, the Hooded Hydra, the Mythic Rare. I think I'm more worried about the Savage Knuckleblade, and this Suspension Field was really the only thing that dealt with it. But I have no other great way of dealing with such a card. But I do like the Active Treason against what my opponent has. Question is, can I afford to play it with just a 3-thing splash? Do I need to adjust my mana base if I'm bringing in another good card? What's bad against my opponent? Jeskai Student's not going to do a whole lot. CDC's Pet's bad, but we already knew that. I was really fortunate to have drawn that mountain when I did. I think I'm playing the Active Trees, and I do need another mountain in there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can I go down to 7 white sources? That seems a little sketch. But again, I have so many morphs, it's actually not a huge deal. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is pull out a Plains, add in another mountain, have this Active Treason from the board, and then I need to cut something, of course. I like the flyers. My opponent can go up the ground really well. I still want all of my removal. I do like Bitter Revelation. Maybe, yeah, I think it's just a dorky Sidisi's Pet or Jeskai Student. Don't think either does a whole lot, but Sidisi's Pet as a morph can be pretty relevant, so we'll just ditch the Jeskai Student and go that. Oh, and I don't think I mentioned in the commentary, my opponent revealed a Mystic of the Hidden Way, so that is a good morph to pay attention to. Whoa! Opponent's playing last again. I gotta throw this away, right? It just feels so painful to throw away perfect mana, especially when I know I'm gonna be on the play, but since my hand really doesn't do anything. This deck should be able to function with less. I'm not stoked, but I'll keep it. I don't want to go down to 5 on the play, and I at least have a morph. Kind of the whole point of how morphs work so well. So I'll lead off here. Remember, I did take down my white sources, so I have less white, but hopefully we'll get there. I'm going to hope my opponent isn't lucky enough to have a turn 3 Savage Knuckleblade twice in a row. Don't have that aggressive start to help me out. Not that I was able to put a bunch of damage on my opponent early, but having the first morph allowed me to get some profitable attacks in, helped me to be the one kind of ahead on the board. Not necessarily in damage race, but because I was like there. If my opponent had like that Hooded Hydra up early, then that would have been really dangerous for me. Another morph is acceptable, though not great. But at least guarantees that I have another turn. Remember Disdainful Stroke, by the way, so if I have options, it's probably better just to play the morphs anyway. Opponent having 2 islands is somewhat helpful. Knowing that the colors aren't all there. Being stuck on 2 is also very helpful in discarding. So it looks like we're both in a little bit of some mana issues. I don't know if I was my opponent, if I would... I know my opponent was on the... what do you call it? On the draw, so it was pretty favored to draw a 3rd land. But having the 2 lands you did have be the same color in a very 3-color deck is a little sketch. But I don't know what else is in the hand, so who knows what gets unlocked in a second. I guess we'll start with Ponyback Brigade. If I continue to be the aggressor, then I'll want that guy more. If my opponent continues to be a little screwed. Here we go. Morph making my mana base work, which is also one reason why I did the mana base the way it was. So all my 3-drops are morphs. Opponent's still screwed. So I think my opponent has about 1 more turn, along with me not having a plains, to sort of get there. Not necessarily, but missing land drops twice and losing 2 cards while I'm still able to develop my board is pretty rough. But doesn't mean, I mean, my opponent can still be in this for sure, because I'm just pounding out morphs. And this is now officially the last thing I can do until I draw one of my 7 planes. White sources, I should say. So there is a 4th color. Interesting. We didn't see that last game. We saw my opponent playing the 0-3. I don't even know what it's called because I never play it. Mindswipe. Gosh, talk about a good rare. My opponent has some real power in this deck. This guy isn't like as good as, of course, the Knuckle Blade or the Hooded Hydra, but Mindswipe being just a solid finisher. Counter anything. It doesn't even matter if it's what it is, though certainly counterable of other strong cards. But if you just get your opponent in that 5 to 7 range, boom, Mindswipe takes it out. Alright, opponent able to get a morph down. Now that a land has been found, I kind of luck sack and get my planes out. So we attack with everything, because I'm happy to flip my morphs up. Question is, do I trade my Harrier for my opponent's morph? I think I do. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Opponent has a Monastery Flock. And then, yeah, we'll just keep running out the board here. But my opponent has found lands. It's very lucky that another island is here. That means my opponent can at least start doing things. And with the power in my opponent's deck and me starting to run out of gas, if my opponent's able to get one of those really powerful spells out in the near future, then it's going to be quite fantastic for my opponent. Love that I can play both of these right now. Do I offer this trade? Yeah, I mean, if my opponent wants to make that trade, since I'm so far ahead, I just want to keep the aggression on. There's really no reason not to. Morph should go in front of the Abzan Battle Priest. I think my opponent wants to trade off and try to stay alive. Right? I'll go and play the Watcher, reveal the Mardu Hateblade. Oh, my opponent's not doing that. Okay. Oh, we didn't go to blockers yet. Well, I'm definitely spending my mana to flip. I guess it doesn't really matter what I play then after that. There's nothing this can be with only a plains up. There's a Mystic. It takes damage, and I still have goblins, so yay! I'll F6 because my one morph opponent doesn't know is tapped, so there's really not a whole lot. Well, actually, I guess my opponent wanted to remove my morph. I could reveal a Ruthless Ripper to get the 2 life. In 1 black, there's nothing in the format that matters. Is in a spell or a flip. But yeah, I guess this could be a Ruthless Ripper. I'd still want a little bit of value. So I didn't have to have 6. Alright. Yeah, we just keep attacking with everything. Opponent can try to eat a goblin, but then dies, so... What can my opponent have here? Nothing, really, right? For blue? Is there a life gain? I don't think so. Pretty sure that's it. I'm not missing anything. I'll just let the 5 go. I don't need to do anything at this point. Yep, and that's it. Okay, so fun first game, because I had exactly the perfect hand. And my opponent had really powerful deck, so we were able to have a somewhat equal match. And then this was just my opponent got screwed. So on to the next round.